This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers for the entire SJM universe with brief mentions of Shadowhunters, Center Stage, Pacific Rim, and Batman Forever.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are revisiting House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. And oh, the joys of a reread. Something that we do consistently here on ACOFAE. The reread is something that is very special. The reread helps us to consolidate our thoughts and to really solidify why we do and do not like things. Jess, how do we feel? How do we feel?
I feel like
I statements, right? These are opinions. I statements.
Yeah, I feel like we are in the minority.
There we go.
That we have two books. We have HOFAS coming out in January 2024, and we have a confirmed fourth book from Bloomsbury. So it's a lot. It's a lot. I feel like we're in the minority thinking that we like Earth and Blood more than Sky and Breath. However, to what you just said, that the importance of a reread, maybe we needed that space to give ourselves to like reflect and look at this differently and objectively a little bit more, to see if like our frustrations are still the frustrations, more connections that we picked up outside of the first time. I haven't reread this at all. This is my first time rereading it. Laura, this is your third time because you reread it twice per usual for this episode, correct?
Yes, I did. I read this. Interestingly enough, I read this before Silver Flames. I read Silver Flames, and now I'm reading it after Silver Flames.
So I feel like there's going to be a lot of connections that we probably will see like glaringly obvious, even though this book was published after Silver Flames. The way we did our reread, I'm like, oh, it's right. It was right there the whole time. Or there were things that we noticed the first time around and we still noticed them the second time, but we picked up on newer things. So we will tap into some of those newer things. We might dive deeper into some of the things that we recognized a little bit more. And then, of course, we have our initial reactions episode. That is just, we were flying by the seat of our pants, literally finished, started recording. And it could have been a 6-hour episode, but kindly editor Sam edited like down to maybe 2. So thank you for that.
And also, I think it's important to note that we, Jess, you and I personally, these are I statements here. I statements. I will not speak for anyone else that is listening, but Jess, you and I have grown as readers since we first read this. So we can now apply, we can apply the pattern. We can apply the book to travel book. We can also pick up on things that just really bug the crap out of us, that really went over my head the first time. One for me being that Bryce is really bad at her job. But before we get into all of that, let me ask you, Jessica, does this follow the pattern? Yes?
We talked about this before the episode, and if initially I was like, the prologue doesn't follow the pattern, I thought, but then I was like, but chapter 1 definitely does. And I think it was just because I was so focused on the Sophie of it all and not like the bigger plot that what Sophie brings to the book. So once we were when you were like, oh, since the prologue, I was like, wait, did I read this? I knew we read the same prologue, but things kind of clicked together between Sophie kind of, looking for a better world, wanting to save her brother, and getting the Hind right off the gate of knowing where her allegiance is. But obviously we don't know until the end of the book.
Right. That's why the reread is so good. I would take a bigger step back and say that the prologue, like whatever that is, where Elizabeth Evans, our goddess, tells us the 4 houses of Midgard. Yep. I would say that, because if the pattern is books per houses,
yeah. Even though she, as in Sarah, was only contracted for 3, and Sarah's on record saying multiple times, like, I'm only contracted for 3, but we know how I do, and there are 4 houses, and ACOTAR was supposed to be 3, and then we got the novella, and then we got ACOSF, and now we have confirmed more, and this is all out of Sarah's mouth, out of Bloomsbury, out of like our investor meetings, the court. I mean, like, this is not public. The information's out there, so it's not like behind the scenes information.
So I would say that this information in the 4 houses, it fits out the bigger overarching plot, especially I would say Earth and Blood and Sky and Breath. Luna is mentioned really at the tail end of that. It's just like, and the ones that Luna likes, and the ones that Luna likes, though, the ones that Luna likes. It's like, okay.
And then, like, even all the references, and I don't know why I didn't pick up on it the first, again, it was only one time reread, and we needed that distance, honestly, for a while, was all the references with hypaxia, and, this is very Flame and Shadow, and like, it's all there. And now that we obviously have the title of the 3rd book confirmed, I'm like, oh, it was glaringly in front of us. If we had done a reread sooner, we probably would have picked up on it. But again, time was needed in order for us to be a little bit more objective to some things.
I would also say time was needed to really appreciate this book too, because while I still have problems, I do appreciate it more through the context of a travel book, because I could not put my finger on what was going on really the first time. It was just because they were fucking all over the place. And if they weren't all over the place, they were in Bryce's apartment. So that, that is what it is. Just to what you're saying, Sophie is like this beacon, right? She's the one that pissed everybody off when we first read it, because it's like, oh my God, who is this person? I don't care about this at all. It is like when Manon was introduced, spoiler, I guess, no, not really, in Throne of Glass, when you're just like, oh my God, who is this person? I hate this person. Why is it important to the plot? Ends up being hugely important to the plot.
See, and I feel like you can talk on that Manon background because you started reading Throne of Glass since its publication date. So you saw that development, whereas a reader like me who came in 2020 for Throne of Glass and 2020 and early 2021, I already knew that the books, it was completed, it was established, the characters were already there. So I didn't have that takeaway of who was this character? She was there for a reason.
Yeah. So here's what I want to say about the prologue. Sophie is a human who made the drop. I feel like that is going to be really important. Sophie has the info, right? The whole point of Sophie is that she's got Danika's info. Danika's dead, and Sophie is using the lure of that info to get the rebels and stuff to go rescue her brother and everything. And the fact that she's a Thunderbird and her brother's a Thunderbird, and let's all do this, scratch backs, all that stuff. Just like you said, we've got the Hind immediately, and she drops the stone in the water. She's like, blop, 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 all that stuff. All that stuff takes her out to sea, lead shoes. That is it. Sophie being the beacon that holds this whole plot together, because they forget about her. Bryce even says, oh, I totally forgot about her. Shit. I forgot she had information and was important later on. It's I'm sorry, maybe stop blowing. That's okay. Never mind. I'm not gonna get into it. We know how we feel. But yes. So at the end of this, you're probably like, Laura, but how is this the pattern? The information that Sophie has in this book is how Bryce gets to, spoiler, fucking Prythian at the end. So
she's necessary. And honestly, Bryce wouldn't have looked into it if Danika wasn't involved.
No, Bryce wouldn't have looked into it if Danika wasn't involved. So Sophie, like, just having the information was not really enough. It had to be Danika and the Pack of Devils to really, like, make Bryce do it. So, yes.
Well, that's why Tharion was, like, my first go-to was going to be Bryce.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way I'm going to get information about any type of lead, if there is one. And that's when everybody's like, the gang's all here. And we start digging a little bit deeper.
So it's impossible for us to hit every, like, plot point in this book and keep it with, like, a manageable time for editor Sam to edit. So before, like, we get into the rest of, like, the plot of this, I want to touch on the CC ballet that Bryce goes to, because there is so much lore dropped here. It bears repeating.
So much. Like, and it's I felt like you couldn't stop reading the chapter, and we read this through audio, and I co-read it with audio and an ebook. So it was just highlight after highlight. Laura, you have 30 pages of notes.
Yeah,
so,
I do.
Like, and that's from this second. That's all from this second read. So it's just like, it's all there. And I think I will say, I think it helps for us that we were able, when we read it the first time, we didn't, if it was like something glaringly obvious, we noted it, to ourselves, but we were able to just kind of like vibe that first read, because it's a lot of information. But when you go to revisit it, it's like, here's Helion's Pegasus.
Right there.
Like right there.
There's the sword. There's Gwydion, or whatever the fuck its name is.
There's your ancestor Hunt.
Yeah. Oh my God. The way that Thur, right? Thur. Thur. Thur is hammered hot over and over and over.
Yeah.
Like, in this, it's
Thur,
just like
Project Thur.
And Hunt is like, lightning. He was like Thur reborn. He looked like a primal god. Like, all of this stuff. Okay. We're going to Percy Jackson him, and that's fine. But I will talk about it later. How
about you share what Percy Jackson is? Because I never read it, and I feel like whoever's listening might not have understand the whole like Percy Jackson concept either.
Oh, okay.
I had to ask you. That's why I was like, maybe not everybody knew this.
Okay, so Percy Jackson, half blood, right? Half god. I think somehow, some way, Hunt is going to be related to Thur, and he's going to be at least like quarter god. I don't know. He has to be special.
Well, he has to be. And even at the end of this book of HOSAB, they say, like, who is it? Mordok was like, I can't, you're not just an angel. I can't put and he's like a bloodhound. So he can't tie in the scent. And I remember the first time my notes said, like, is he also Fae? Is that some sort of Fae? Is that why they're like mates? But the whole Fae or God or something is kind of solidified when Murdoch's like, you're something. You're not an angel. You're an angel, but you're not just an angel.
And also, like, Rodulus says, like, oh, well, yeah, like, of course he can do that. Like, we bred him to be able to do that. Like, talking about Hunt, like, of course, obviously, duh. And that's just like, bloop, bloop. We're just dropping that there and walking away.
Well, then even Bryce brings it up, like, in the next chapter. She's like, oh, I think it's like the first page of like the chapter after that. She's like, so we're not going to, I'm going to hold a beat. There's a lot of info dumping that I have to share with these people. I'm going to hold on to that, bread hunt thing for another conversation when him and I are just at the apartment and not in front of everybody. So that's in the back of her head too. She's like, my boyfriend was bread. My mate was bread.
Oh my God. The number of times that these characters, okay, I've got a problem with how a lot of these characters behave, but the number of times that these characters were like, I'll see you later. I'll tell you tomorrow. It's like, no, tell me now.
If you told me I'll tell you tomorrow, I would.
It's not important.
I would have, I would be like, you tell me right now, or the anxiety that I would have if you don't. You're like, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about what later? I didn't think there was anything to talk about, but now there is.
Okay, talking. Let's talk about more this fucking ballet building. She's like, oh, it could have been a temple. It probably was a temple. There's a lot of temples here. There's a lot of gods. Where did all the gods go? But this one has friezes around the whole building of the creation of the sword, of Hell's armies, the seven princes, hordes on armies, all that stuff.
There's a lot of art. There is a lot. Like, I mean, I feel like this is just the ballet, and I feel like we're walking at the mat.
Yeah. And then, Jess, as you said, the Pegasus being riding into battle. Conveniently, the rider's wearing a helmet, so there are no facial features. Convenient. Thank you. Okay. I didn't pick up on that. Thank you. And from here, Bryce's star starts to flare, and she's like, oh my God, why is it flaring? We know that it flares around undiluted Fae bloodlines and around her chosen knights and companions. So good for you. Bryce, we're going to figure out what that means, I guess. But my note here, I'll hold it up. They're just so horny. They're just so horny. It starts here because she's like, God, he looks so good in his suit. Hunt hates to dress up. I hate that about him. I've never worn shoes like this. Okay, I understand why, but shut the fuck up. All right.
This isn't something you do regularly. It's okay to dress up. I don't like wearing heels to a red carpet, but I'm going to.
Yeah. And Bryce is like, don't tell me you're one of those Fae males that hates dressing up. He's like, well, that's a good thing. I don't have to be in it very long. It's like, ugh.
Well, I remember when in our initial reactions episode and when we first read, we were like, you know what? All the horniness aside, we really commended them for we don't know each other. We're sexually attracted to each other, but we really don't know each other. And we were like, okay, they're waiting till solstice. Good for them.
I respect that choice.
I still respect that. And I do understand, and maybe this comes from reading so many Shadowhunters books now, is where Bryce was like, shit's going down. People are going to die. We might want to speed up our timeline because we know Shadowhunters get married young. So that part, I was even like, okay, I get it. If I put it in that context.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. It just, I guess my criticism here, is it a criticism? I just being an asshole? I don't know.
Is that going to be your theme for 2024? Because
I don't know. I guess it's just something that I'm trying to be aware of. But I do think that the level of horniness that they have for each other detracts from the plot a little bit because they're just staring at each other, swallowing things, or staring at the light rippling off things. And I understand. I get it. I really do. But then a little bit later in the book, it's very sticky. It's very sticky to use ACOFAE language for the rest of the book again, which is fine. But it's just but they keep up with that. So it's I can't wait for him to be buried inside me, and then it's just oh, I need to plan my rebel plot, but the sun on his hair.
I just had a thought, and it's clear speculation, and we'll dive into speculation of it all at the end of the episode. But it is written, just when we talk about when you read these books, you feel like you're in them. You can totally visualize them. I'm wondering, especially with we know Throne of Glass had a pilot script. We know ACOTAR, if it's being written, because if anybody who's listening, if they read scripts, it'll have in the parentheses, or I mean, even if you don't read scripts regularly, you can refer to them online. They say and water glistened, the sun shone in a different direction. I'm wondering, again, speculation though, but with the confirmation of the shows that we do have or did have, it's written in that way similar to a script for it to be betrayed eventually. I mean, I feel like that's a lot of people would love, a lot of authors would love their work to be brought to me, you know, big screen, little screen, any type of screen.
That makes sense. That would make sense to me. And if that's the case, then I commend her for doing it, because that means that it is overemphasized, which makes it harder to ignore, which makes it more important to the overall vibe, which means that more of the overall vibe would make it into whatever is getting made.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it wouldn't be on paper. You know, we talk about like sometimes with books, we're like, oh my gosh, this is so long. But then when it's translated onto screen, we're like, oh, it's an hour and a half movie.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. Because you took all of that out because it's just visually portrayed.
Good point, Jessica Marie. I cannot stand the relationship between Ember and Bryce. It really grated on me this time. I think maybe it's because of the holidays, maybe, but the scene that Ember makes here in the ballet drives me absolutely nuts. The way that they communicate through postcards drives me nuts. Like, be an adult, speak to your daughter. It drives me crazy.
I understand Bryce and Ember's like their closeness, I guess, but they're also very, Bryce is like, what did you mention? Like, it's almost as if Bryce is doing the parenting. She has to gentle parent. And I commend Bryce for, there are times where she's putting up the boundary and Ember's not having it, and Randall has to step in, like, he has to get involved. And she's like, Mom, I'm not talking about my sex life in public. I'm not talking about my relationship with you. We have our own shit going on. We're going to handle it. You don't need to be involved with this. To that, the fact that she has to lie to get her to get her mom to do anything, I also really relate to.
And here's the thing that I cannot stand is that Ember, who lives in this like constant fear for Bryce or whatever, makes these big public fucking scenes. This big scene at the ballet. And then later, Bryce is like, oh my God, my engagement to Cormac is going to go public. I've got to get my mom out of this city. She's going to go ballistic. Like, why do you need to parent your mother? Like, are you serious?
That has to be a very, like, we know that maybe that's just something that Sarah wrote in. We don't know Sarah, like, but maybe that's that millennial experience of parenting the parent.
It's embarrassing.
So many people. Yeah, I don't disagree. But like, how many other millennials and like young adults are currently doing that? Yeah. It's like, why have kids? Because your parent is the kid.
Well, and then, you know, she gives her a new kid and she's like, thank you so much for this new kid.
Yes. That was wild. I picked up on that the second time. Oh, he loves having a kid around. And Bryce was like, I'm still your kid.
It's very strange. It's all okay. Again, we cannot hit every plot point. It is just impossible to do these things. Ruhn, okay, very quickly, Ruhn's party. What's very important about Ruhn's party is that he knew 3 things. That's the very famous thing. But Cormac appears. Let's talk about Cormac. Let's talk about him in full. Who is Cormac? Where did he come from? Why is he important? All that.
Well, we know Cormac is a Valen Fae, and he is cousins with Bryce. I don't know if he's like first cousins or if it's like extremely removed. They make it seem like it's really extremely removed. But ultimately, the Autumn King has betrothed Bryce to Cormac, unbeknownst to Bryce, because female Fae are property of men. Because, you know, just like in ACOTAR, patriarchy rules the Autumn Court and the Autumn King and all the Autumn Fae. So she's supposed to be married off to him, and Bryce isn't here for it. And it's because they need to strengthen the Fae lines. They need to strengthen the Fae power. Power is being diluted, which I also found was really interesting, again, because I didn't pick it up. I picked it up the second time, that it's also referenced to the witches in Midgard, that their power has been diluted as well. So it's like all of these magical being and shifters, and it seems like everything, I mean, and we know this, that their power isn't as strong as it used to be 15,000 years ago.
Yes. Cormac shows up. He's shadowy, right? It's like all this power, all these things. Cormac dies at the end of this, but it's no head. It's no head, not dead. So that's how ACOFAE stands on it. All this to say, Ithan shows up at Bryce's apartment, and so starts Ethan's plotline of being a sad wolf, being a busy wolf, and then being a prime or an alpha in training wolf. And that's essentially his plot.
I love Ithan. Ithan grew on me. He's just going through his own like self-discovery. I know he's going to have a good character arc, and we're going to see that through, because I mean, he is the epilogue.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely the epilogue. So that's going to be just like so huge. Bryce. Okay, so Bryce is working at the Fae Archives. There is a mention right here in the beginning of the book. This is before, I'm not sure what chapter we're in, but they do say that the archives in the Celestial City under the Crystal Palace are like, those are the most secure ones, like, but the Fae Archives are good too. So like, awesome.
And Jessica has like the most extensive one, but she has relocated it in a warehouse unbeknownst to anybody because of the shit that went down in the spring.
Yes. Celestina, there's a new angel coming. It's Celestina. Celestina sells everybody out at the end because she's fucking Hypaxia, and they're using that against her. And she has been telling Rigulus where everybody is the whole time. Like, okay. Here's what I want to talk about, Jess. Why is Bryce so bad at her job? Why? Like,
I noticed that.
Also, how?
I mean, Declan called it out when he was pulling footage when she was at Griffin Antiquities. They're combing through years of security footage, looking through Danika. And Declan's first thing is, did you ever work? We know she worked on her resume, but didn't do anything about it. We know she had it in a safe little file. We know she kind of listened to her own music. We know she did sales when she did. And then she procured things. Like, I don't think she actually worked when she was at Griffin Antiquities. And it's the same thing here, because there are things like she's constantly calling Jessica up. How do you do this? How do you do this? Clearly you didn't learn anything at your first job out of undergrad. And then sometimes I feel like Jessica, whatever the Lunathian equivalent to Google is, I'm surprised Jessica wasn't like, Google it. But she eventually was like, figure it out yourself, and I'm going to charge you. And then she's like, okay, charge me, whatever. And Jessica came through. Jessica is going to continue to come through. She was in the epilogue in the first one. We didn't really see her, except for like the little glimpses in the second one. She's going to come through.
Yeah, she has to come through. I would say she's giving off very main character vibes. Which main character would you think? Maybe Miss Miranda?
Oh, absolutely, Miranda Priestley. And I know we don't really like get into the fan casting, but if we're gonna fan cast her, like, could she be Cate Blanchett? Because I could just like her. I mean, Cate Blanchett could do anything, but her as Jessica Roga. I mean, everybody's going to want Jessica to step on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be really great, especially when she drops lines like, think through this proposal. Don't be a fucking cliche.
Oh, so good.
But nobody thinks in this book. Is it
because it's a travel book?
I do think it's because it's a travel book. So they're just like constantly going. I do think that is exactly why, Jess. Yes. Yeah.
Man, this travel book. I mean, and we'll go back to saying like, just because something is a travel book doesn't mean it's a bad book. There's a lot of things happening, but there's no immediate payout just yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think that is just like so fair. Cause like, okay, skipping. I mean, like Tharion is on his own little journey.
That Little Mermaid That
Like,
little
he's-
merman. That poor, he just wants to be where the people are. He really does. But he also, what does he say at the end of this book? He goes, I can't give up my fins just yet. But he also doesn't, he thinks with this dick all the time. And he even said, he's like, I was dumb. I thought with my dick and I really wanted to bang the queen's daughter. So I did. And okay, rightfully so, when the queen's daughter's like, you've been dragging this on for 10 years. Fuck you. And gets her mom involved. Like, good for her. Use your princess status and get your mom involved. So I get that. And then he again rushes over. He's like, I can't, he's trading one slave life for another is what he says, but he'd rather be a slave above the water. So he sells himself to the Viper Queen, who I think is Valg. And she's like, that there's more to it. You have to drink my blood. And which I think is the blood oath, because he's all like, she's like, you will return to me. And he's like, I will return to you. And his inner monologue is, it's a voice that's not my own, but is. And then Bryce is thinking like, where the hell is Tharion? Tharion shows up and she goes, something's weird. Something's off. He smells off. Like there's something's going on, but we have to work on this plan. That's not a plan. So I'll deal with Tharion later.
Yeah.
Everybody's dealing with something later.
Yeah, everyone is dealing with something later until they're not. We have little things like, I used to sabotage machines. My name is Hunt. I used to sabotage machines. Thank you for telling everybody very loudly. I can fix your scooter. Thank you.
Also, the part I will say when she's like, oh, Hunt met up with her and she's just pushing her bike now. Why is it? And then she has to ask him, Can you handle this? Can you carry it? Can you push my bike? I had to get you out of Angel Jail.
Angel Jail because you beat up Pollux.
My first thought is, the fact that she even had to ask.
Let's talk about Danika. Let's talk about Danika.
Let's talk about Dana. Danika's a hot topic. We are one of two people who are still Team Danika. So I guess you're one and I'm two. So we're two of two people who are still Team Danika.
I will die on the hill that Danika didn't do anything wrong. I don't think she did anything wrong. I don't think it is fair to punish her for having a secret life. She did it really well. Don't be jealous. Sorry, you're jealous. She did it so well.
When we say
secret life better, I guess.
Lie better. When we always say lie better, but she didn't even lie. She just
did not speak.
She just didn't share everything. And I feel like people are really upset about, I don't know. I feel like people want to, and I'm guilty of it. I'm so guilty of self-inserting, especially with Bryce. But I feel like people want to put their own type of best friend relationships and apply it to this best friend relationship. And isn't there a general conversation, even when it comes to morals and ethics and this, that, the other thing, with fantasy worlds, that we put our ethics into these worlds?
Yeah. Well, and Rigula says that at the end of this book. He's like, we're gods. It's not our fucking fault that you're our food. That's just how it is. So very good.
Because that's really what the main gripe. And Danika did this, Danika did that, Danika didn't tell Bryce everything. And Bryce is upset. I'm not saying she's not allowed to be upset. But what is everybody upset? Because people like Aelin, she kept a lot of things to herself. So she planned wars without telling anybody.
Yeah, and I struggle with it too, because I hesitate to say Bryce wouldn't have been interested, because she would have, she would have, but it's also Danika had a future, right? She had a destiny, she had a plan, she had history, she had background, she had the good standing, she had all of these resources, she had a job.
She was born into a specific type of life.
She was
also.
like, yeah, specific type of life. She was
Also.
like, yeah, exactly. And she had a job. She was like the alpha. She was the pack of the devils. Like she had responsibilities. She had to go to these meetings. She had all of this stuff to do. She had, here's my point. Danika had a whole life outside of partying with Bryce. And like the fact that they lived together was, I do think, a big part of their closeness, because like Danika like fucked off a lot, and she had her job. She was with the Pack of Devils. She had her life, and like Bryce had like half of the life that Danika had.
Well, she didn't want to be associated with her dad. She didn't want to be, I mean, she's like griping a lot with the whole Fae princess thing in this one. Meanwhile, Ruhn was like, there's a lot of things. Like, I was born into this. There's a lot of rules. And I can't remember who says it in this book, but someone says, your ignorance on this isn't my problem.
Yeah.
And maybe it was her dad who says that. And I forget what the point I was going to make. Oh, her being Danika, just having everything. But then there's a line that Bryce says. She was like looking at a picture, which we all love, like a going out picture. And she's like, Fury was in her shit. Juniper was starting out at the ballet. Bryce had all this stuff. And I was in my own world thinking, life is great. Let's do a line. Let's get drunk. Like, she was in her party girl mode. She didn't have anything outside of that. And I think that was like rereading it the second time. It was very self-reflective of Bryce to be like, what else do I have going on? I was so blinded then. I was in my rose-colored glasses. Yeah.
And she says, like, who am I? Like, I thought I knew everything that was going on here, but like nobody thought to tell me. Like I wasn't, it's like, no, you really weren't in a place, right? Like, what about anything that you're doing like shows that you could do this? Everyone is actively trying to protect you. That's what they're doing. That's how much they love you, right? Like, Fury isn't like fucking around with her job and bringing you into it. Like, Danika has kept you completely separate from this. Like, Ruhn doesn't, you don't, again, like in the first book, like she's not talking to Ruhn. Mm-hmm. Like it's like a whole thing. So the fact that Danika is really villainized for not sharing all of this stuff with Bryce, again, I've said this before. I really don't think Bryce was in a place to hear it. And also, it is okay for friends to have parts of their life that you're just not a part of. Like, does it have to be world-altering, war-ending, ward-shattering, gate-opening research? No. And, like, obviously, there's, like, it could have been handled a little bit better. It didn't have to be hidden inside of a table, is what I'm saying. Like, we could have been a little more obvious.
And even going back to that, I'll even give the USB and the through love all as possible, because she was hiding that shit could not be found.
Yeah.
The only reason, like, I don't know, did Danika know that Ithan was eventually going to get the sword to jump on the table and break it? No, it was just hitting. I almost feel like so much other shit was going on that she put it there for her reference and forgot it was there. I come across paperwork all the time where I'm like, why did I keep this paper? Chuck.
Yeah, it's just like, So it's just, okay. Again, I will always defend Danika. I don't think she did anything wrong. We don't know her whole story. And as a dead character, she's really fucking prominent in this book. But again, on the flip side of this, I will say I do deeply understand Bryce's frustration, where she's just like, did I fucking know this person at all?
Yeah.
I understand that completely, because there is like you get punched in the gut too many times. You're like, it's like enough, like enough.
Yeah. And she says that, and even with like whether I think she's like her and Ruhn Ruhn was picking up on it and they're doing the Damati thing. And he's like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning everything. And that is a lot of this book, because it is a travel book, that everybody is having their own self-discovery. And like, you know, when you're in that place of like, what am I doing with my life? What is going on? The only thing we have is each other, but I'll tell you about that later.
Yeah, it's just it's a thing. It's a thing. We have at this point met Baxian and the Hind, the Hellhound, and the Harpy.
The Triari is like, we have Sandriel and Micah's Triari are all in.
They're all
Lunathian, Pollux, Harpy, the Hind, Baxian, and Baxian's the only one. Again, rereading it, you're like, Baxian was there the whole time. He was ready to, and he knew how important Bryce was to Danika. So I feel like that's why he was so heavily involved. And then Hunt being like, what happened 2 years ago? And, you know, the timeline lines up and all that stuff. But to their credit, like, I would have been skeptical about it too.
I just, you know, all of it is that. If I were Bryce, the reveal of Baxian, I think, would have been just the like, I'm fucking done. I'm fucking done.
Well, she did act like that. She's like, are you kidding me?
I would have been like, where is she? Bring her out. She's not dead. Where is she? Fuck this.
Especially when the tattoo was in her handwriting.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just like let me pick a font out. That was her. That's just like, there was something we were doing. You were like, if that person posted that letter that you wrote, I would have known that was from you. Like, she knows that handwriting.
Yeah. So again, I totally understand Bryce. It's like quickly, broad strokes here, broad strokes. Tell us, please, about the meeting of Adis, quote, broad strokes here. We're skipping. Adis, tell us about this, because he drops some lore.
He's dropped so much lore, where Adis is talking about the lore of the Starborn Queen, Thea, but it's this fake Adis. This is Rigelus as Adis. And even going back on it, and I'm on page 175 in the ebook, even going back on all the lore about Thea, about Peleus, there is no sign that it's not Adis. You know how sometimes you're like, this is a little off. I don't know if this is him. I couldn't pick up on anything that it wasn't Adis.
Let me look at my note. No, not really. I guess the fact that he was just like dropping a bunch of information is the only thing.
And then even when Bryce questions it with Rigelus at the end, Rigelus is like, I'm honestly surprised you didn't pick up on it, because I was so like gung-ho about y'all going to fight.
Yeah, he was like, duh. Like, why do you really think Adis would do that? Bryce is like, what the fuck?
But also, like, I don't know Adis.
I don't know him. Like, what? What? But yeah, like Thea, like your light is her light, right? Like hell's armies, like, you know, it's all lies.
It's the same war we fought 15,000 years ago. Like, he's referring to this war of 15,000 years ago, which flash forward to the end of the book where he says it's the war that this quote unquote, like this stupid little princess we know to be Aelin closed all the gates, and he wants Bryce. He's like, you really need to do this war so we can get the gates back open, so we can keep feeding on the rest of the universe.
Yeah, and just like more lore, like Peleus, you know, with the daughters, you know, Helena's Starlight, Shadows, that's her sword through the female line, you know, all of this, her sword, you know, history is written by the winners. Yes, all of this stuff is going to pay off. It has to. Why have it here? So it will all pay off. And then, you know, Jess's library is, you know, before the Asteri. That's Thea's truth. Like, don't you want to know where we all came from? And
knowing, and like, this is the other thing, knowing that, they were like, I don't even know any rebels. And then he's like, really? Because Cormac's right behind you, Agent Silverbow. So, like, really, the Asteri knew about the rebels. The entire, like, they they orchestrated the whole thing, just like they have been manipulating all of Lunathian.
Yeah. Don't be the reluctant hero. Hell's armies are yours to command. Like, yeah, all of this stuff. There's a rebel behind you. That's Regulus just directing this whole fucking thing.
They're just puppets. Everybody is puppets, and they're just watching it play out because they manipulated how it's going to play out.
Yeah, it just doesn't. I don't know. It's just a very satisfying in the reread to know that that's Regulus and that he set it all up, and then he set it all up from the very beginning. Again, the gloriousness of the reread. I guess the gloriousness of the reread, all of this stuff about the mech suits is just like Pacific Rim, and the Pacific Rim plotline just doesn't hit for me. So, I understand it all, but like the Prince of the Pit showing up in dreams to both Hunt and Bryce.
That's Apollyon, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Apollyon. He's like, the Northern Gate is stirring. We're not going to lose the war again. Come on. You don't have full use of your powers. What the absolute fuck?
You need to, he's like, we need you. And I know, it's funny. It's like, we as in like society knows hell as in like, the 7 layers of hell, Lucifer, blah, 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 HELL. So I love that Sarah did here HEL and knew that we would assume hell is one thing when it's really something completely different in her fantasy world.
Yeah, which is so fun.
It's so fun.
Right?
I know we loosely brought it up on the initial episode, but again, it goes with the reread. It's continued to be driven in because even at the end with our, last chapter, and she's like, this isn't hell. This is not hell. And we're like, oh, you put what you thought hell was. That's not what we were referring to the whole time. Hell has grass and mist.
Yeah, for real. Like what?
And
what?
Hot leather wing daddies.
It's like, okay. There's the other message. The message. Okay, so the Reapers attack. I'm just broad strokes. Broad strokes. The Reapers are attacking Ruhn and Bryce later on in the day, and the Reapers are like, "I have a message for you. Message time from the Reapers. Train better. You suck. Train better," which I think is so funny. He is waiting.
Well, they're not training.
They're not doing anything. Yeah, they're just like trying, but they're not like really going for it. Which is, we'll get there. He wants a worthy opponent, like the Prince of the Pit. Blah 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 blah. This is also where Cormac, comes in and like saves Ruhn, and like we learn that he can winnow, and from here on out, this is where Bryce starts like trying to learn how to winnow. This is also where Day wakes up Ruhn and is like, hello, you're dying.
Yes. This is the first part where I was like, this is the first highlight that I have because obviously it's all connected, but this is how I know that they're mates. I think we all know that they're mates. I don't think that's speculation because isn't it with Sarah's mates is that when your mate is dying, and she goes, I don't even know how I got here. I just felt something was wrong and I was here. So she's like, wake up. And that's all she keeps saying to Ruhn. And Ruhn's like, what is going on? She's like, I don't know, but he's not even coherent. And he's just like, what happened? And when they do their follow-up meeting, she's like, I don't know. You were in danger and I was there. I was like pulled to you. So yeah. I love them. We love Lydia.
She's got to have a great character arc. We love Ruhn. Obviously, we love Ruhn. I will say something controversial and say that Lydia is my favorite in this book. Yeah.
That's so exciting. I remember in our initial reactions, we were like, she's a baddie. She's going to be, we loved her. Once we found out who Lydia is and her backstory and could you see yourself being a double agent? Because she's amazing. She's amazing. I was thinking, could you when she's asking about the torture, she goes, could you deal with getting because she's going back and forth with Ruhn and Ruhn's like, I don't care. I don't take anything seriously. She's like, interesting. You're going to be the downfall of all of this if you're going to be so half-assed about it. Oh, I love that you love Lydia.
Yeah, no, I do. I
don't think it was ever a question that you didn't. I should correct myself. It's just like the fact that the reread, you're like, she's it. She's that girl.
I really like Lydia because I just dislike what happens with Bryce's storyline in this book. So it's like you have to cling to something, and she's so good. I also enjoy Hypaxia. Like, she's also a really good female character here. Yeah, I really do. Because I'm so frustrated with Bryce. I'm just so.
Well, I don't know if we openly said that on our initial episode. I know we had our private conversations saying that too, and that the Bryce at the end of this book is the Bryce that we loved and knew and saw from Earth and Blood.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Bryce, what does she do? Bryce uses the Star Sword to kill a Reaper, make a Reaper bleed. Jess, that's what you were bringing up when we were talking earlier. And and then Ruhn goes to the Autumn King, and he's like, "Yo, what can you tell me about the Star Sword?" And the Autumn King is like, "Oh, now you want to know? Now you want to know?"
He doesn't make it, but you know what? In defense of Ruhn, he, as in the Autumn King, does not make it easy for anybody to want to interact with him, because he even says, he has a question. He goes, "Well, Cormac's the son that I should have had." And he's like, I fucking try. And this is what I get. Of course, this is going to be like, I shouldn't be surprised, but I am every time. But you know what? Ruhn also doesn't give a shit. And he's like, stop acting like you're fucking bitter that you have a daughter who's better than you and you're threatened. And now he wants to stage a coup. We love Ruhn.
See, I took this a different way. I took this as another adult figure being like, fucking Google it.
Oh, interesting.
It's like, you want it now? You want it now. You've had it for how long? You can go anywhere. The Fae archives are like in the basement or whatever. You coming to ask me? Fucking Google it. I feel like Jessica's over there like, fucking Google. All these like adults are like, God, Google it. Like,
that's so funny.
Because he's just like, all right, fucking fine. I will tell you. You're interested now? Fine. I will tell you about my little passion project that he's had all these years. But yeah, I did feel he was just like, God damn it.
Was this the part where Ruhn was also saying like, oh, his dad took a drink of his whiskey and it was the only sign that I knew that he was shook of like the information I was coming for? Like,
yeah, because he says like the Star Sword's from another world. It was made, from a meteorite, all of this like kind of things. And Ruhn's like, huh, cool. Okay, weird. Moving on. Like,
sounds like Cassian when he's in Reese's office. He's like, I got bored of whatever Reese was saying.
Yeah, it's just it's funny. It's funny. I'm skipping. Obviously, I'm gonna skip the part where Hunt uses his lightning power to flip the bean. I'm just gonna skate on over that. That's fine. I love you too, Quinlan. I knew when I saw the slideshow. Here's why I'm bringing this up. Bryce says, I made the drop for you. And I just hate it so much. I hate it so much. And this, I'm bringing this up because this goes down to my core fundamental problem with her character in this book. She says this is like, we're not like into it. Obviously, we're doing big points here. But when she says this, I made the drop for you. But she's saying she did it for a man, even though in the first book, she's like doing it to like save everybody. Like Hunt's part of it. Like the whole world is, Danika's there. We're all going to like work to change. Like it's a big moment. She didn't just do it for Hunt. But also the core problem with Bryce's character in this book is that she needs a Hunt mostly for her power to work. Like she needs, and like, yes, Hypaxia, like she can do it with Hypaxia, but like Hunt specifically says, I'm quoting this just because it bothers me so much, I'll level you up.
The level up. Think of me as a video game and you can level up with me. And but you know what? She is bitter about that because she's like, which I do like. It wasn't like, oh, you're right. Like this is I am on record saying, you could be a whole person by yourself. Two halves don't have to equal a whole. You could be a whole person by yourself. And this isn't to negate their mates and their, I understand the importance of a partnership. But if we're looking at it as a partnership, you would assume that Hunt needs Bryce also, and that is not the case. Hunt still has powers without Bryce. It is not the other way around, and that bothers. That bothers Bryce because she's like, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man. That's her basically thing when she's frustrated. And he's like a level up. And I'm thinking of Mario. And I was like, that's not what she's frustrated about. I mean, who knows? Maybe with her training, maybe now that she's in Prithian, she has no one to rely on but herself. And she'll go through some sort of training montage with Nesta or Feyre or whoever. So she has no one but herself to rely on. And maybe that, again, that's speculating, but something has to come from that.
Something has to come from that. Something has to come from Bryce because I know you say that because she does say I'm a strong independent woman or whatever, but at the end of it, it's more like, come on, baby, level me up. It's like, come on.
You're saying one thing and doing another.
Yeah. And it just is kind of gross. Kind of gross. Okay. Bone Quarter, Underking drops the plot that he's eating souls, eating First Light. He's like,
nom, nom, nom. I'm going to take a bite before it keeps on going.
Yep.
To Starfall.
Yep. So, BT dubs, he didn't send the Reapers. Good to know. Reapers are from hell, just like vampires. Good to know.
Well, they were this is, again, the Asteri, Rigelus, pitting everybody against each other because the Umber King's I didn't send the Reapers. That must have been Prince whoever, Prince of the Pit. And then they confront the Prince of the Pit. And he's like, I didn't do it. Who's putting my name in their mouth? And meanwhile, Rigelus is dance, people dance.
The whole time. A line that the Underking drops that I fucking love. This is gold. I love it. He's like, yo, I didn't create the rituals. You created the rituals to bear the horror of what was happening. You knew. And it only took, a couple generations to create all these rituals, the gates, the boat, all this stuff to make it bearable, this horrible information.
Yeah, he knew. And then even when they were where's the blue sky? Where's the green grass? He's like, you made that up.
Yeah, he's like, you saw what you needed to see. Yeah. Meh. Yeah, it's I don't know. He's like, so, when you make the drop, that's your first light. When you're dead and you go through that second light, all very important, nutritious, delicious light. This powers are Asteri. If you've seen Batman Forever, if you've seen Jim Carrey in his Riddler costume, sitting on his throne, having all of that power shoved into his head, tell me it's different. Tell me the visual is different. You can't. Moving on.
I love that was your first. You said that last time. You were like, I haven't, if I have seen Batman Forever, and I don't think I have, you had to send me the clip, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly how I imagined it.
Yeah, it's oh my gosh, it's just too good. The point of the Underking battle being that the Shepherd is killed, and Bryce and Hunt figure out that she's a conduit, and he can charge her up, level her up to use her powers or whatever. It's Baxian's there too. He's like, hello. Sabine comes and tries to make drama. It is what it is.
Which is so fucking on brand for Sabine. You know what? It's she does things, she says things, and then gets mad when the consequences of your own actions. You're mad that Ithan is with Bryce, but you dumped him here. You did this, and now you're mad about it. Pick a lane.
All right, we'll go from one movie, Batman Forever, to another Minority Report. Tell me about the Mystics.
Where there are 3 Mystics. There is, are they all wolves?
No, I think just she is.
Okay, so there's 3 Mystics, and they essentially have some sort of mystical powers where the astronomer taps into, I feel it's like a psychic reading, and then they tap into the magical powers of go speak to the afterlife and kind of be a liaison between the the living and the dead who have these questions, or not even the dead, just anybody they're trying to come in contact with. And that's what happens here, is that Ithan finds out more information from the bone quarter that Bryce tells him. And he's like, wait, so Connor might be alive? He's looking for a way to try to be in contact with Connor. And Bryce cannot deny him this, because she's like, look, if it was Danika, I would be doing the same exact thing I did. So like, who am I to be a hypocrite about this situation? But they're all, it's her, it's Ithan, it's Tharion. And they're still kind of like, what, we did not make the right choice again. And who, one of the princes of hell, the prince of the pants movie? Oh, Thanatos. Oh, that's right. Because they're like, she's like, another one? How many princes am I going to talk to? He kind of comes through the void instead of Connor. But he does say, like, look, I don't have a Connor here by that name. Never heard of him. Never saw him. Is this also the part where she's like, what about Jessica? Do you know anything about her? Yeah, he's And he's like, I know her by a different name. Maybe it's like, not this part, but there is somebody who does that. Just like, I know of Jessica, but she doesn't go by that name. I know her by something many, many, many moons ago. So that'll be fun to unravel. But they're basically getting confirmation that Connor isn't in this afterworld place, but Ithan is desperate to be in contact with him.
Yes. And Thanatos answers, he's like, I smell the starlight on you, Bryce Quinlan. There's 7 levels. There's a brief mention of 1,000 mystics in the catacombs of the Crystal Palace. They are searching for other worlds, but we're not really supposed to know that yet. And Thanatos here says, like, you slew my shepherd. Fuck you. There's an order to keep Connor in the bone quarter. It's fine. You know, I'm the prince of the ravine, BT dubs. And I'm going to come get you. Rah! And it's just icy and like cold explodes. And, you know, the mystics like, you know, come out, send me back, send me back, send me back. Ithan, let's just finish Ethan's plot. Ithan will return there. Ithan will speak to the female, figure out she's a wolf, figure out she's an alpha wolf. He'll steal the sprites, and one of them being a dragon. Ithan will eventually be told that he can be an alpha if he wants to, and then he will eventually go back and guard this female alpha wolf who is a Fendir relative and can take the place of Sabine. There.
Which, I know what I love about it? It's the Prime hates Sabine too.
Yeah, he's like, fuck you.
Like, I feel like this reread, it's even more apparent where he's like, no, you tell me what Sabine did. I want to hear it from you. Oh, you're asking about Danika and why she studied history. She studied our lineage. It only goes back so far, but there's more. There's more that you don't know about. And then even with Ithan, again, he's like, tell me more. Oh, you're interested about this? And Sabine's always so like, Sabine is ballsy to be that nasty in front of the Prime. That one time when Ithan went to visit, she's like, what do you want? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, at first I thought maybe she was kind of putting like the wool over his eyes to be like, oh yes, Dad, whatever you say. Like, she was the perfect daughter. But then behind closed doors, when the Prime isn't around, she was just nasty. To see that she was just as nasty, because at that point she's like, there's nobody left. It is only me. And so she had nothing really to lose. And the Prime was like, hey, Ithan, do you want to be an alpha? I'll give you your own pack. Oh, this other person is a Fendir? Perfect. Get this bitch out of here. Literally. Like, that's what she is.
We're doing broad strokes here, so I'm going to talk about the biodome. The only thing that I want to talk about the biodome,
I'm surprised you're even bringing it up, honestly.
Besides the winnowing, which is important, is the thing that really stood out to me during this reread. In the beginning, I said it's like Ember, her mother, and like Bryce having to parent her mother, and how like immature Ember is. But here, Bryce makes a passing thought. She says, like, I can't deal with Hunt freaking out on top of all of this too. Like, I have to like deal with Hunt, so I make sure he doesn't like sink the fucking boat before I can move on and do literally anything else.
So it wasn't even like a mating that was like, oh my God, I love you. Oh my God, I love you too. Let's consummate our mating. Like she's like, I got to get him in. And he needs to get some testosterone out.
Yeah. And she like strips down, and she's like, blah, 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 my note is like primal savagery, avenging God, the claiming, the power, they glow together, the handprint glows, a kernel of creation stayed inside of him. What was that about? Let's talk about that. What is that?
What is is that her losing her power? We don't know what it is, but it made me wonder, does she lose a bit of herself, this kernel of power every time? It's like this, because he's like, I felt this kernel in me and
it's dormant now. What is that? I don't like that. Maybe it has a payoff and we're in the process and that's why I don't like it. I would love to be corrected on this, but as of right now, it's just a little thing that I don't like. I don't like that Bryce has to be charged up. I think I have said that before. I do not like that Bryce is so fucking rude to the sprites when she meets them later on. I said it before, I'll say it again. What the hell?
We say it again. And you know what? It threw me off this time because I picked up on the Lahaba grieving a lot more this reread. She's like, I miss Lily. She would be doing this. We would be watching Pangs and Bangs, every single scenario. And I'm not denying her grief. I'm confused with she was grieving. And then all of a sudden with the sprites, she's like dismissive of Lahaba in a way that she was like, oh, Lahaba, she saved my life. She says she's from this queen. And they're like, no, it's legit.
They don't lie about that.
Yeah. And she's like, whatever, I guess. I got to get to work.
Yeah. And later the sprites are like, look, you should talk to the queen. She should know that this descendant died. And Bryce is like, busy. No. And that's it. That's not addressed again. And it's just so wildly out of character, I think. And
I was going to say that feels so out of character. The grieving part isn't out of character. It's how she is with the sprites that is.
Yeah, she's like, no. But then you could say oh, but she still has trauma. That's why she's in disguises, but she hasn't fully embraced herself. Okay, fine. She doesn't talk to them again and is rude as fuck here. So make it make sense. That's all I'm saying.
This is the frustrations that we have with a book 2, especially when we have a confirmed book 3. We're still we're frustrated, but I guess we'll find out if there's a payout.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just Dragonfire can burn princes of hell. There has to be a payoff there. It's not just here for no reason. Let's just go right to the ball.
We're going right to the ball after she's been saying I'm Princess Bryce, motherfuckers. Give me time to do all the things that I want to do.
And this is after the Autumn King has been all right, fine, I'm going to legally change your name. You want to talk shit? Let's do shit. Here's what you got to do. Follow all the rules. It is what it is. This is also where Night and Day have agreed to meet up. Love them at the ball at midnight. Fine. So Hunt, in a tux, whatever. Okay. I understand why. I understand this whole scene. I understand the drama. I understand the politics. I understand all of it. I do. I get it. I understand why she did it. Fine. I do, though, agree with Cormac that, just unite the Fae. Just play, be queen. Just be queen, right? And Hunt can be whoever you want to be. We could work this, right? It's when the man asks you to rule the world, you say yes, and then you make internal changes before it gets too bad. Right. And so I do feel maybe that would have been better politically and she could have made more change that way, but it doesn't matter because she's in another world. But again, this is just me thinking because she's Hunt's property now.
Yeah, well, in the way she sees it, one, she's never been one about politics. We know this. We know it's never been about politics for her. But for her, it was you know what? I would rather be, if I'm going to be property, it's going to be my mates. And I'm not going to be Cormac's, and if I have to lean into this, and this is what my dad is, not my dad, but this is what my biological father is telling me I need to be abiding by. The king is telling me I need to do. All right, we're going to play this game. I would also be the person who'd be like, oh, you're giving me a credit card? We're running up that bill now. We're running up everything.
But again, we're talking about Bryce having to parent everyone around her. When she finally realizes, like, oh my God, this means Hunt is a prince. She's like, he's going to go insane. Oh my God, he's going to go crazy.
I thought she didn't mean actually insane. I thought she was like, I can't wait to, get him in 4K with this.
See, again, I took it totally different and thought he would pull a Tamlin and explode all of the things, because he would just not be able to handle the mental stress of having this title. Which, again, he kind of proves me wrong with that, because he's like, I loved being out there with you. I loved being in public. I loved, having you show me off. So I do appreciate, that part of him, because, his ex-girlfriend kept him in the dark, okay. Well.
I wonder if that's where, some of, where his appreciation comes from for her. He was like, I
was honored. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel it's like I saw this conversation online about, and it comes with the whole Simone Biles husband, and then the Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce knows he's like, I'm with the Taylor Swift. Then you have Simone Biles' husband oh, I'm just with this girl who's not my type, but I figured I'd give her a try since she was chasing me for so long. So it's almost like you had that with Hunt and Sandriel, and he was just he loved her, but she was just indifferent with him. It was just somebody she can fuck. And and Hunt, where I will give him credit, he's like, I am with the Bryce Quinlan. She is, Starborn Princess aside, I know who is giving me the time of day. I am so lucky that this person is giving me the time of day. And even fast forward to the end where Tharion's like, oh, Ithan, you had a crush on her? You don't think anybody who doesn't have, she is amazing. You are outside of your mind if you don't have a crush on Bryce Quinlan.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you on everything that you're saying. I really do appreciate it. I don't appreciate the drunk sloppy sex with the restraints and the glowing and the lightning. So I'm not going to talk about it, except, they address that he doesn't have a toe foot fetish. Okay.
That's already that is Sarah's look.
Stop bringing it up.
He says anything. What does he say? Anything about you, is
my
a turn
fetish.
On. Yeah.
Okay. Rah, 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 rah. All right, fine. They went up to the roof. Excellent. Bryce, dreaming of Apollyon again. Here we go. They're in Apollyon the Star Eater. They're in the dream area of Parthos. I started this war for Adis, Thea, he was just so heartbreaking, all this stuff. Why don't you have your powers yet? Bitch, is kind of how I took it. Cause he was I didn't send these Reapers, but what the hell?
Princes of Hell are we need you. We need you now.
Do the work.
Shit's happening faster than you can realize because you don't see it. We need you in tip-top shape.
Yep. And, are you working with Hunt? He was bred to be receptive. Here's another one. BT Dubs, Peleus, killed Thea. Look at all this lore. Ba, 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 ba. All this lore for us. We want you to use the horn and open all of the doors, right? Find me when you learn the truth. So that's why Bryce is I gotta get to the pit. I gotta all this stuff. Good lore, good plot thread to kind of pull us on. I like that the Princes of Hell are so annoyed that Bryce is just not doing the work. That they're just it's not we can go into the world and bug you. We have to find ways to do it. So it's hard. Come on, work. Nobody wants to work anymore. But it is kind of annoying. Where's another? Okay, big meeting big meeting in Erd's temple with the Underking.
Is this where they're like, we can only have 4 people?
Yeah.
And then like they get trapped because there's only like one way in, one way out, but Pippa is blocking the main way entrance.
Yeah, and this is the Baxian like reveal of the tattoo.
Oh,
he like gets him out through the door, right?
I always imagine, even though there's multiple entrances, I always imagine the Pantheon.
Oh, definitely.
That's like exactly where my mind was. And we've been to the Pantheon and I was like, this is so, and then I'm imagining like, the little crevice where Baxian. Also, I thought about this book. Baxian is always like when they had the mech suits and he was running around the river in his dog form, and then he's here. Does nobody know he's a dog?
I know. It's very confusing.
I feel like if you saw him, I'd be like, oh, Baxian, what's up? How has like Pollux, the harpy, obviously the hind knows everything, but like, how are they Mordock? Do they not pick up on the fact that that's Baxian who's been helping everybody out?
I guess they do at the end because he like shows his hand. But this is the like, through love, all is possible. I had 2 years with Danika. We met in Pangera at the meeting of the wolves. She was researching ancestry into shifters.
That's why Sabine was scared of me, because Sabine knew. I knew all the shit she put Danika through, and she was scared. But so Sabine knew she had a mate.
Yeah.
That's really the only person.
Yeah, Sabine knew she had a mate. This is also where Baxian drops like, yeah, I know what those numbers are that were on Sophie's body. Like, yeah, I know what those are. Blah, blah, blah.
Only one place in the world has it, the Crystal Palace.
The Crystal Palace.
In the Eternal City.
Yeah. Danika was killed because she was like searching for a replacement to Sabine, and like, the 3 years she worked with Sophie to get the Thunderbird, all of this stuff. And Baxian is just like, so let's work together. I want in, like, all of us together. And this is where they come up with the most asinine fucking plan in the fucking world. There's no, I cannot. Let's just have Declan hack the cameras. That's fine. We'll teleport in and we'll get this information that nobody else could get, that nobody else knows. It's fine. It's totally fine. We'll tell no one. It's fine. It's no problem. This is absurd. This is absurd. And I think it wouldn't bother me so much if Hunt and Bryce weren't like play acting like a crime procedural in the beginning. It's like, but you know how this works. You know how to do this. Hunt, you're a literal cop. Like, where's your earpiece?
They've done this before. Like, how when you go into a new role, typically, if it's like within your career, like the same like industry or career, you have the things that you did before, and then when you get into an elevated position, you build on the previous positions. They've done this before. They were putting things together. They did the detective work. So that's where you're like, why are we playing dumb?
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? You know, you have the technology exists. Why are we not using it? I just can't. Also, Bryce, like, calling Juniper to, like, say sorry and goodbye. It's like,
you have a lot of issues. We didn't bring this up in the first. I don't think we've brought it up in our initial episode. We might have a little bit, but you are not a fan of this.
No.
Well, that brought us to here, I guess.
Okay. All of this, I know that we addressed it in our first episode about this book, but I'll address it very briefly now. I despise the way that this plot has pried away all of Bryce's like friends and family away from her and put her as far away from them as you could possibly get. Now, I know it's everybody. I understand it's everybody. I'm talking specifically about her female friends, and her mother to an extent, but her female friends, because the shit that happens with Juniper has absolutely nothing to do with Danika, with other worlds, with Cormac, with all of this. It's all about Bryce getting power, right? Getting power. and then wanting to use that power in a positive way to influence her friend, or to like make her friend's life, influence her life, to like make it better, because her friend has been unrecognized for continued excellence in her chosen field. Like, and Juniper is pissed off about this because Juniper gets made principal and she's like, I didn't earn this. Okay, Juniper,
but she did.
So fucking real. Like, you did, and they were never going to give it to you.
Yeah, because it wasn't like I didn't earn this. She was up next, and then the politics of the CC Ballet investors and funders were mad that she wanted to save more people during the spring battle and everything that went down. So she did earn it. They were just not giving it to her because of what happened in the spring.
Yeah. So Bryce fucking fixed it because Juniper will not go to a different ballet company because she wants to be at the best. And I understand that. However,
but this is very center stage. And I know we haven't had our center stage episode, but where she can be either where she could be a soloist at, American Ballet Company, or she could be a principal at Cooper Nielsen's company. And that's where Juniper's like, I don't want to be a principal at Cooper Nielsen's company. I want to be with the company with notoriety. And like you said, I can't imagine like where I work if I went to some like what?
Yeah, it's just really annoying, and but like this whole situation, because this regular real life situation of trying to help your friend and having it backfired, is so real that it pries one of Bryce's primary supports away from her early on in the book. Actually, too, like, because Fury kind of goes with Juniper. She's there, but she's like not really.
And she even says, like, I'm friends with both of y'all. She is my girlfriend. You are, but I cannot. I will not play middleman. And she removes herself from the situation, but she's living with June, so she removes herself from Bryce out of default.
And this is just girl bullshit drama. Yeah, this is all it is. It doesn't do anything except give us this moment that gets Bryce fucking caught, like caught, because Bryce has been caught this whole time, but like she gets like caught because
she leaves
of
a voicemail,
because of this voicemail, and it's just like it didn't have to happen. So by the time Bryce is in this asinine fucking this plot. Okay. So Bryce takes the photo and she sticks it in her phone, which means that she's got it with her in Prithian. So let's all hope. Let's all hope. Let's all hope.
We got some comms crystals coming.
But Bryce, by the time they get to the Eternal City, doesn't have Fury, doesn't have Juniper. Her mom has a new child to take care of, a replacement child to take care of. Okay. And who else? And Lydia is not available in this situation, and they're not friends either. Hypaxia, unavailable, nowhere near them.
Unavailable and essentially defaulting with Celestina because Celestina's been, ratting them out. Who
betrayed them. Right.
Yeah.
So there are no female friends. And Bryce started with a very solid, female friendship group. That's why I'm bringing this up.
But that's why we love Earth and Blood so much.
And because Juniper was the one journey. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the journey. And Juniper was the one who was there through the grief and was the one who saved Bryce's life.
Yeah. So again, a travel book, I understand all of this can be resolved in the following books. And I can look back on this and be like, you're a little asshole for no reason. But I just don't understand why we have to go so far. Why can't we just have Juniper? Why can't they just have made up and Juniper being frantically trying to call Bryce, being like, I'm so worried. Yeah. Why can't we have that instead of this? Why do we have to tear everything away from her? Again, I understand the hero has to be torn down before she can be built up. I understand the hero's journey, but let the girl have her fucking friends. she's losing everything else. She's in another world. Like, let one person on the outside be like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I love you. Like,
and really the only two people who are constantly checking in on them is Hunt, like always like, are you okay? Or like going after her if she's like in another room. And Ruhn. Ruhn is all like her. I love, and I've said this from the beginning, I love the relationship. I love that Ruhn has constantly tried to try with her and how close that they've gotten. And he recognizes it also. He's like, I'm so fucking lucky that you're my sister. Why do we have to, and he's constantly like another one who wants to break generational curses where he's like, why do the Avalon and the Midgar Fae have to be against each other? Why can't we be cousins that are cool and like grow the Fae together? Like, why can't I share this, like the Starborn sword and the Starborn royalty with my sister? Like, he is like, I got nothing going on except I want to be this leader that I don't think of myself yet. I don't know. I've always loved Ruhn. I think we've always loved Ruhn. We've loved him since day one. We shit on the frat house, but who doesn't shit on a frat house? But like, that's also, we say it in love because we've also both are very deep in frat culture also, in Greek culture. So I don't know. He's always there. And I think it helps because of his Damati powers that he's able to check in more discreet ways.
yes. And also fuck day. That's also, very important with those Damati powers.
They are the best thing about this book and the frat pack.
Love them. Love them. All right. This is the end. Bryce is in there.
There's a lot.
Ruhn and Hunt are off getting captured. Deck is just silently watching it all. I don't know.
Deck is like screaming at that, like panicking. Because when Flynn gets a hold of Ethan's like, you gotta see, I don't have anything to say. You need to see it because I can't make this shit up.
Yep. All right. Can't make this shit up. Bryce finds the room labeled dusk. After she finds the pipes, the names, and the first light, and realizes that you have to destroy the core underneath the palace made of quartz. And the Asteri will die because then they won't have any way to eat. Cool. I like that they have little percentages. I think that's real cute.
I know.
I just think it's adorable. Like, it's real cute.
I just think of cell phones with your charger battery.
I do too. Like, when do you get nervous? Like 55? Like,
I also want to know, like, how is it determined that, like, is Rigulus have less percentage because he's obviously orchestrating all his, like...
Does he need less because he's a little boy? Like, I don't understand. We'll see. Okay. We have gone over what is in the dusk room, right? We've gone over the Asteri. They've lured them, hell... all of this, Thea, Rigulus, we've forgotten the name of our original world. Rigulus, I did all of this. I brought you here to open the rift. Your ancestors opened it with a sword and another object, or a horn and another object, stolen from the Asteris. We were in that other world and we made prototypes for the angels. Of course, this is Valaris and Prithian. They also killed our siblings. Midgard is a base. We lured everybody here. Thea and her two daughters, we shut the gates. We're all trapped. By the way, your world was a world of twilight in a verdant green island. All of this is going to have payoff in the next book. So it's hard to just like list it off here. Like Rigulus puppeted Micah to kill Danika. Danika was on to us the whole time. Shifters lost themselves and gave themselves to the Asteri. Midgard shifters are Fae. We split them against each other, made them two different species. We bred the ears out of them again.
Yeah, not your kind of Fae, of course. Your breed, which is the Starborn Fae, dwelled in a lovely, verdant, rich in magic land. If it's any interest of you, your Starborn bloodline specifically hailed from a small isle a few miles from the mainland. We know this as the Dusk Court. This is just like we're saying this as it's fact. Yeah, in a beautiful near permanent twilight. The Midgard shifters were Fae from a different planet, where the world shared their form with an animal. The mare descended from them too. This is just us speculating that if one was the Dusk Court, if Starborn Fae is Dusk Court, we're going to assume that this is the other world that is Terrasen. But we also know this from Kingdom of Ash, where we had the Fae that disappeared for a while and then eventually came back with the Kingdom of Ash battles. They were just like, hey, y'all, we're here. And they were shifters. So that is like, we're confirming it without it being confirmed, more or less.
Yeah. Like, confirming it without being confirmed. And then what happens? Everybody gets captured. Lydia doesn't seal Bryce's shackles. They get to the throne room, and that's where Regulus says, like, Celestina sold you all out, right? Like, hey, your star glows because of the bloodlines, companions, and knights. Oh, our love. I can't say it. Our love is, I'll paraphrase. Our love is very strong. I'll find you again. Our love can cross worlds, right? That's good enough.
Our love can transcend.
Yeah, that's good enough. Ruhn says, take the sword. You're going to be queen. Bring back armies.
Long
Bring them
live
back.
the queen.
Long live the queen. We're going to have a coup when you get back. And then Bryce is like running up that hill, right? She's running up that road. She's running up that hill. She's going, she's got Regulus chasing her, right? Vecna's got his arm out trying to get her. Stranger Things reference. And she goes through the gate and hello, she ends up in Prythian. Jess, you want to take us through this last part of this book?
I love the last part of this book. This is such a great part. We land in Prythian. She's like panicky. And, she goes through the portal. Hunt couldn't, didn't know anything. So his slave crown is on his head. And we're in Prythian, and Az comes to save her, blindfolds her like we all want Az to do to us, and brings her to the townhouse. And brings him. See, this part is interesting from what we know that has been released from Bloomsbury and Sarah is they bring her to the house, but like now she's in like some, we're assuming under the mountain or like under, the castle and wherever they are about near the Hewn city. Because she's in this townhouse, she's freaking out. I need to speak to Adis. I need to speak to Prince of Hell, all this stuff. Adis, Az is like, hell. Amren comes in. Amren is flabbergasted because they see Gwydion, which is also the Star Sword. We know from our immediate reread from ACOFAE that Gwydion/Star Sword has not been seen in over 15,000 years. Amren is fluent in Ancient Fae. Bryce speaks Ancient Fae. She's like, I don't know, maybe this language will help, but they're clearly Fae. We know that Rhys and Ruhn is a spitting image of Rhys. And everybody's just kind of wary of her. We're all here. I'm curious to understand this timeline, though. We have to assume it's after ACOFAE. That's what I'm thinking. And because there was no way they were going to bring Nyx around, this new person. But there has to be some safety involved because they brought her to a townhouse and not to like one of their dungeons immediately.
Just speculate for me.
What do you want me to speculate?
We're done. This book is over. Ethan's plotline, he's just watching. As we said, we're done. We want to make sure that this episode doesn't go too long. So just speculate for me. Where are we going? What are we doing?
Well, my crack ship theory is not happening. Right. And I know I never thought it was going to happen. I'll read a fanfic about it where Bryce and Az were going to end up together. Loved that theory, even though I'm a Gwenriel stan. But like, I guess this goes into the speculation theory. We know that the third book is kind of going to close some sort of chapter. We know we're going to get a fourth book. We can speculate that we know of the 5 bonus chapters that we're getting for Hofas, which is an Ember and Randall. So we could either assume it's him with Emil, them with Emil, or like pre-Bryce and all of that. We have a Bryce Danika chapter. We have a Ruhn Lydia chapter. And we also have a Bryce Nesta Azriel chapter. And I feel like that's a good direction to start speculating, only because we have the swords. We know that Nesta has made 3 swords, Ataraxia, the dagger, and something else, a smaller version of Ataraxia. We know those are made. We also know the Star Sword is made. We know that the twin of the Star Sword is Truth Teller, I think, is the dagger that Az has. So I'm just going to speculate that that's what the chapter is. There's no way in my head that Sarah would have a threesome chapter, as much as I would love it. That's just not where the direction of the bonus chapter is going. Those are just kind of my immediate thoughts. I mean, people are coming back. We know people are coming back. I mean, you have it doing this reread of HOSAB. It is like bomb after bomb. Like things keep getting dropped. And how can it not? Where's your speculations going? Or do you like speculating?
Oh, good question. I'm not speculating. I have put my foot down on this. I'm not speculating. I really feel, and I've said this before, so this is me being consistent, but I really feel that, like, if you really love something and you find a plot, or like find a theory, or find something that you just love, right? And it makes sense to you, and it just like clicks for you, and like you just know that like this theory is where the next book is going to go. You know it in your bones. What if that book does not do that? Do you hate that book?
Well, I feel like that happened a lot with the conversations after the immediate release of ACOFAE. People were speculating for everything. I mean, people were writing fanfics about it. And I'm not discrediting fanfic writers. We love them. We live through them. But when you loved the fanfic more than like you said, you're like, wait, is this even the book that I want?
Yeah. And also what happens, and here's the thing, I, at my great age, do not need any more drama in my life. So to like lay down, like speculate, like this is going to happen. This is this, and this is this, and this and this. And then for that shit to not happen. And then to be open for the attack that might happen, because people are passionate. And of course, like we're passionate too, obviously the name of the podcast, but like the passion that people have gets to a level of just mean. You can see this in real time. Just mention Gwynreal or Eleusian. Like it can get just like,
it's
nuclear.
Scary.
Yeah.
What's supposed to be this thing that starts off as like clean, good fun gets volatile really quickly.
Yeah, it gets volatile really quickly. And it's just this like thing that I just don't want to open myself up to. And just like me personally. But I think that is an important conversation to have, because again, when ACOFAE came out originally, people were really pissed off because like the cover, where's the care in the cover? She's not going to put the care in Nesta's story. Like that was the whole thing, and people fought about that. People were like so angry about that.
And now it's their favorite. Like people are like, this is my favorite of the series so far.
Exactly.
Like, love it. I feel like people forget about how wild it was. And it gets wild very quickly. Yeah.
Because it's just like the nature of the beast. So no, I'm not speculating. Do I have things that I wish would happen? Yeah. But like those things didn't happen in this book, and I struggled with it. So here's the thing.
I'm going to ask you after the episode.
My expectations for this next book are like in the ground. Like they are so low. And I'm putting them there so that they can be lifted up with every page that I read. Do you know what I mean?
Because then you can't be disappointed.
Because then I cannot be disappointed. If you expect nothing, then you cannot be disappointed. So I am so looking forward to the joy and pleasure of reading this new release so that I can make the connections, connect the dots, have a little bit of end to this like main kind of story I think that's happening, and kind of just see where it's going, so that then when you do a reread of 1, 2, and 3, and that story is kind of bookended a little bit because we know we're getting book 4, it all makes a little bit more sense. And what I need, my speculation is it will all make more sense at the end. And that is what I need.
I love that. I think that's so, it kind of like wraps everything up. Do you think your frustrations are still the same, taking the speculation out, like those frustrations that you had with HOSAB are still there? Or does that kind of tie into when you were saying like the things that didn't happen are what frustrated you?
Yeah, that ties into that. The things that didn't happen are what frustrates me. Bryce embracing her power, Bryce being independently powerful on her own, Bryce reveling in, enjoying in, and being an agent of change as a Fae princess, having, this cadre of strong female friends around her. It just didn't happen. And it didn't happen so severely that she is so isolated. She's in a different world. So again, expectations on the ground, they can only go up. Very excited to see her reunite. I'll say that.
I'm excited. Yeah. I think we all are. I think we're just going to vibe the first book. I think that's really going to be where we're at. But with that being said, thanks for joining us. Feel free to follow us on ACOFAE Podcast on Instagram. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. And if there's something that we didn't mention in either like our initial episode or now, please feel free to reach out to us, and like we'll, if anybody reaches out, we'll gather everybody's like, oh, well, do you want to touch on this? What are your thoughts on here? We'll make an extra episode. I mean, we're already going to be revisiting all of this when HOFAS comes out, and add to it. And maybe we'll be like, oh, remember that thing that we said? LOL on us. But thanks again, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.